Okay, so we've opened up our site job here. The coordinates for this are in the incorrect location for us. These are in real world coordinates, and we want to put these coordinates here into building coordinates. So what we want to do is we want to rotate this. Our ultimate goal is to rotate this model here to match our contract set of drawings. So how we do that is there's a couple of steps with this particular file that you may or may not run into, but ultimately I like to test this in the beginning where I can see my control lines are on and the outline of the building. Those are the two things I really care about. All this line work out here really doesn't mean anything to us. We just need to capture our control points and our building and overlay those on our contract set of drawings, and we'll be good to go from there. So during that process, it's easiest to just go ahead and grab just to see how your files are going to match. If you see whatever's in there, I type move, and once I type move, then it will ask what you want to move. You're going to select the objects you want to move, and then just select anywhere once you hit enter and move that over. With this particular file, we are getting double movement of the files, the data. Sometimes these points will come, sometimes they won't. So in this particular case, that file, those ones were locked behind and they're not moving from that origin point. So really, once again, it doesn't matter where your models move, but at least you know now these points can actually move from one model to the next. So what we're going to do is at that point, you could put it back where you were at or whatever you'd like, but since I've moved this and they're actually here, I'm going to just grab our necessary points here, and I don't know how they're all set up, so I'm just going to grab them all like this and go right click, select similar, make sure I get the whole unit itself, the whole point. And it looks like it captured all of them around like it's supposed to. And then I'm going to come in here to this building, and this building is what we're trying to overlay. If these were grid intersections, you could use them as well. But I'm going to grab that and I'm going to say select similar. And now it looks like I've got really good data here, our control points and our base, our building. So then I'm just going to go right click and I'm going to go clipboard copy with base point. Our origin point is always going to be 0,0 whenever we do this kind of stuff. So it's 0,0 and I hit enter, and then I'm going to come up to my drawings and hit plus. Once I've done that, immediately I'm just going to go right click. I'm going to go down to clipboard and paste with original coordinates. After that has been done, the model has now been moved into this fresh drawing. So what then I'll do is I'll hit on my keyboard, I'm going to hit Z for zoom, I'm going to hit enter, and then E for extents, and it's going to zoom us and center up in the model here. Next thing I like to do, because we had issues with the drawings, sometimes moving points, that kind of stuff, with control points, I like to make sure, and this is an extra step that not everybody does, but I do like to come in here to polylines and come into the center and actually draw from the center of the point to center of point. There's a couple of reasons behind this. I feel more secure about the data that I'm moving. And I also know that it's one unit, so I can just see the little points. In case I zoom into a model that's got points way out in space, sometimes your control is close to your projects, others it's not. So you'll just continue on around here doing this, and as many control points as you have. Obviously, I started, and I'm just going to jump into this other drawing because so we've just completed drawing the lines around from control point to control point. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to select line. I'm going to draw it from wherever, like my origin point, I know I want to kind of stay with, which is going to be this guy right over here. This alignment I need to have going, this should be going east-west. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Ortho. I'm going to come in here to where my line is going to go. Right, like so, and I'm just going to jump out to the side, okay? After I've jumped out to the side, then I'm going to click rotate, and then I'm going to highlight everything on the model, and then I'm going to hold down shift and unselect that guideline that I've just drawn in. And then I'm going to hit enter. And then it says specify base point, which will be the end of that line. And then here, I'm going to turn ortho off. And I'm just going to rotate it around to where it's almost there, but not quite. Under 90 degrees. So you can choose which way you go. If you go this way, you'll end up putting in a minus. If you go this way, it'll be a positive. So I'm going to stick with all positive numbers. So after that, I'm going to zoom in. And this line technically should be aligned with that. So I'm just going to go angular. I'm going to select this one and select this one. And it says 17 degrees. I'll hit escape once. I'll click on this. It'll highlight the box and I can right click on it, go to precision, go down to angle, and that is the number that I need to rotate. So what I want to do is go ahead and zoom out and type rotate. Select the entire model. Once again, hold down shift, select there, and hit enter. So we keep our origin point there. And then I'm going to grab the end of that line. I don't need to zoom into it, but then it'll say rotation. And then I'll just type in whatever that is. 17.382067. And now my drawing has rotated perfectly to the right direction. And if I zoom in and look at this, my angle's perfect. So now I can just grab a hold of that and hit delete. And I can also grab this line and select delete. So now my model is at least rotated with my control as well, all as one unit. So at this point, we're then going to Xref in our contract set of drawings. So what we'll do is we'll just go right click, or sorry, not right click, but we'll type in Xref. So like so, enter. Then we're going to come up here and we want to Xref a drawing. So we're going to say attach a drawing. And we're going to look for our floor plan of our model. So we'll go ahead and grab that and say, okay. At this point, we want to keep its origin where it's at. So we want to make sure that this box is not checked for specify on screen. We want to just leave it right where it's at. And we're going to come up here and go full path. After we've done that, we'll say okay. And now from here, most of the time, if this is real world coordinates, your model is going to end up down here, but way, way away. So what you're going to do is, I like to get in the habit of just getting that line going from whatever corner I chose. I'm going to go ahead and grab that, and I'm going to take and zoom it way out like so, and then draw it down towards 0, because I'm assuming that's where my model is going to be. If these are real world coordinates, which they are. So once I draw that line like that, I can hit Z, enter, E, enter. And now I've got a place to verify the data. So I know, so now I know, like, here's my model I was working with. And then way down here in the corner is going to be the actual drawing. And this is a 0, 0 location. So this is where they drew the model in at. Okay. So from there, I can just grab this line and zoom into wherever that corner is. And here, we don't know technically which corner is which on this, to be honest with you. We don't know if it's the outside or inside. I'm going to assume the outside the first time. There are dimensions here to verify, and we can snap dimensions. But in a real world situation, ideally, you would want to use grid intersections. So you would this would be a specific grid intersection you would select it on, and the previous location would have had grid on it. But this model is probably the trickiest to run into, because you're coming into a model that doesn't actually have grid in it, and they don't have them overlaid from the survey control. So the surveyors never gave that information. So all I'm going to do is just jump in here, and I'm going to hit escape once. I'm going to type in move. I'm going to highlight the whole model here. I'm going to hold down shift and unselect that line, hit enter. Base point, I'm not going to zoom in. I'm just going to come towards the end of the line. I just need to be over halfway, and it'll highlight the end of the line. So I'm going to go ahead and grab it there. And then I'm going to come down here where it's over halfway on this side, and it's going to automatically grab that corner. And now we're going to zoom in and look at where our data is. and see if it matched or not. Ideally, your first time it should match up perfectly. This time, we can quickly notice that the scale factor of this model is different than their model. So what I'm going to do in that case, we didn't verify that before, but it's great. We have origin to origin point. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and do undo, and I should have my model out here in my previous location. And now what I'm going to do is actually scale this up, because those points for whatever reason are on a different scale. And I don't really care about scale at this point. I just want to make sure that the model's aligned, and then we can worry about scale afterwards. So scale, I'm going to highlight everything, hold down shift, unselect that line. This is also going to change the location of this line, obviously, but at least I have all my data here. Once I've got it highlighted, we're going to hit enter. Base point is always going to be 0, 0. And then from there, it is going to be a scale factor of 12 because it was too small. So I want to stick to the factors of 12 90% of the time. You could snap dimension, and verify, but overall it's usually a scale factor of 12 when you're working with files to files. So now our model is a little more, it's located in the right general area, I should say. So I'm just looking in to see where it went. Once again, we'll just type Z, enter, E, enter. And now our model is way out here, and there's our line. So zoomed out by 12. I'm going to capture that line, go up and find that same corner that I was looking for previously. Just go for that. And again, I can't stress enough, these should be grid lines that you're attaching to, but this drawing doesn't have that. So, and then I'm going to go back to that same feature of just move, highlight the whole model, hold down shift, select enter, select the end of that line, zoom out and select over half, and it'll zoom in there. And now we can look in and see how that model matches. To be honest, it looks like it matches pretty good. So, and to test this, just because you might not be able to see if that corner is actually there or not, just draw a line from the corner out, and then you know that that's where your one model is, and then just click one of these letters and just right click, isolate, hide objects, and see if those things match. So it's matching right up. It looks like I had two drawings over the top of each other, but we know that these models now match. It's a good idea to turn back on the model and verify something down on the far side as well, just to make sure scale factors match, etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to undo, turn back on that model that we can see, like so, and then zoom down to this corner on the opposite side and do the same thing where I grab a line and snap it to the corner and just draw it out to the side. And then I'm just going to select that model that's there. It's the Xref, and I'm going to go right click, hide objects, and make sure that those objects are lining up. So we know our models match. Therefore, now we can come in here and delete that line. We could have done select similar delete, but we'll grab this and this. We can now remove those points. Now our control points match where our model's at. That Xref we can remove. So right click, detach. Now it's just my control files, or my control points with my building. Now we want to generate these points over the top of where their locations are. So that one says 183, that one says 184. Okay, I'm just checking the order to see which point was done first. So it looks like 180. So we're going to start with 180 right here. We'll go right click, point layout, get license. And then we'll just go to right click, point layout. And we're going to come down here to control points. And you can do this multiple ways, but ideally we have our line work here. We could just have it automatically do it, but control, once again, I like to just be very specific about it. So I'm just going to say place point. So control point, this number to match on the screen was 180. So I'm going to type in 180. This is going to be a control point here. And I actually will probably put survey control point, because these are the original points from the surveyor versus just general control points that I created, like grid intersection offsets or something like that. So and you can do master control, you can do whatever you'd like in there. But then I'm going to say place points. If I place point, it's only going to do one, but I'm going to do multiple since they're 180, 181, 182, so on and so forth. So I'm going to say place points. I'm going to then zoom into this point, and I'm going to capture towards the end of the line. Again, I verified that I was snapping the end point, so that point is there. It matches the elevation. We could double click and enter, but we'll go 181 now, and we just click close. I like to come out to the side, 181, so on and so forth, 182, and just make sure you zoom in and see these numbers matching. 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then this one here is, it's got a different number. So the only thing you have to do is hit escape. It's going to kick you right back in. You can slide this off to the side and re-enter that number of 10020. And then just say place point, because it's the last single. You could do place points if you had more of them to do, but place point. Go ahead and grab the end of that. And now our point's done. It's already going to kick us out, so we can click done. So now we've generated all of our points. The last thing we have to do is enter our elevation. So that elevation is 145.46. So to do that, you can just double click on this and it will pull up what we're supposed to have here. And we can just grab that elevation value of 145.46. And I'm only going to do one of these for now. So I'll say okay. And the elevation is now attached with that point. But we have our control points. We're only going to do one of those because I'll show you in Excel. You can just probably do it quicker doing it visually on there. So now our coordinates are done. We can just go right click, point layout, and go to export. Choose your file name for whatever that may be. So here I'm just going to call this master. It's actually survey, sorry. Control, and then I want to make sure that I have the same file names in here, so I am going to verify that really quick. Spring Arbor is what I want. And then file location, save it wherever you'd like. So I'm just going to save it on my desktop. Obviously, you put it wherever you want. We say OK. And then from there, the key here, coordinate system, I would not recommend doing that. I'd also recommend over here, export precision, changing this from 8, which is the default, down to 3. That's down to 1,000th of an inch. I think that'll be plenty accurate enough. And then this filter here, if you have a drawing with multiple points, you can come in here to filter and it'll show up. If you have anything different from one point to the next, you'll see these categories get bigger down here below. So if you have different elevations, that kind of stuff with multiple points, they'll start to pop out and show you different information there. So from there, we'll just click that top box, and my resolution's off, but we'll hit apply. Those points are all in there. We say okay, and now it shows as untitled, but at least it's filtered. If you had multiple points in there, they could be filtered out. We don't, because this is the first start of a job. So we're just going to say okay, and after that, it's going to tell us that we have 8 points, so that covers all of our points. We'll say okay. We can minimize this and find our drawing with our survey control. which would be survey control. In here, you can just manually change the elevation. So these have an elevation in here of whatever was placed. It looks like it actually carried over from that line work, even though I edited that one. So what I'm going to do is just drag this up into the corner, and then I'm going to grab my AutoCAD drawing that has the elevations on it. I'm going to click there, and it's in the corner as well. Close this, and I'm going to zoom into point number 181. And over here, we'll just make sure we're on 181. And I just kind of scoot this over just so I can see it. 180 elevation is right there, and it's 153.28. And then just zoom over to the next one. And just continue this process. But this will have your control matching your contract setter drawings. This should help. Let me know.